What, do we have minutes?
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's February 21st at 2 p.m. This is a meeting of the Animal Issues Committee. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to call the roll. Bob Harrison.
Here.
Cheryl Crow.
Here.
Deb Ward.
Here.
Marcia Maldies.
Here.
Terry Smith.
Here.
And Melissa Riesco.
Here.
Welcome, Melissa. Melissa's our newest member. And thank you all for being here. I know it's unnecessarily nice or unlikely nice day for February. So thanks for joining us, and thanks to those watching us out there and those in attendance, and thanks to Ann Womack for assisting us today. The first order of business, you have in your packet the minutes from our last meeting, which was March 29th, 2022. I know some of you have looked at them already, but if you could just double check and make sure that we didn't miss anything, and then if we could have a motion to accept the minutes in a second, we can get on to the business of the day.
I have no minutes. Here. I looked through that packet.
Farthest one there.
Any changes?
No, I mean, I'll make
We-
a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve,
Second.
and we have a motion to approve by Deb Ward and a second by Bob Harrison. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Our second order of business, in your packet, or if you're following along online, we had correspondence from two people, both related to, two residents, both related to dog waste stations and putting dog waste stations in our parks and near the beach, and we'll discuss that under new business. Under the old business category, we had discussed last time the dog park issue that seems to come up a lot here, not only with our committee, but within the city. And we were going to put together a working group, and then we found out that due to FOIA, we were not allowed to meet as an informal group, and we've kind of lost our steam on that. Quite frankly, I was surprised that we weren't able to go out and explore without having it be a formal meeting. I also subsequently had talked to a number of, or had been approached by a number of people within city leadership that there was difficulty in terms of trying to find a dog park due to public space, which we've talked about before. So there was some issue of can we find some private land in order to do it. The beaches, I were told, were off limits, and the city does not have the space, nor do they feel it's environmentally possible for them to do it correctly. Also, in your packet, it mentions on the current CDP that, I'll read it here. It says, the concept of a dog park was rejected due to limited public land and the ability to construct a dog park in an environmentally friendly way. That was from the CDP that was just completed. So I wanted to either put this issue to rest, or we decide we have to be more creative, or maybe now is not the right time to do a dog park. But I don't know what the members feel at this point.
What are the opportunities, if any, to search, just outside of our region, like over by the ballparks, behind the outlets? Is that considered county?
Yes.
Okay, I know it's county area, but I mean, is there like a partnership that we could possibly look into, especially like at the ball fields? I mean, there's so much extra space outside of those fields, and it has parking, which would lend to potentially desirable location, is there an opportunity, and who is in charge of that to even reach out to?
Yeah, I would have to check. Maybe somebody here probably knows if you guys have researched it before. I think it would go through the county, and if there were a group of people that wanted to do it, they would put together a working group and work with the county to do it. I think we would certainly, not speaking for the city, but I think that would be an option to allow people to do that. And if we could find something, just due to the space constraints we have, that would be helpful, but I don't believe it would be sanctioned by our city.
Yeah, it's my understanding that there are some areas that have come up in discussion with folks in and about town, just outside of city limits. And I think, in the early stages, there's not necessarily enough information to move forward to potentially propose a buy-in from the city or some type of sponsorship or involvement from the city. So I think it's, certainly very much still in preliminary stages at this point.
So when you say buy-in from the city, budgetary-wise, to help with construction of even something outside of
Right.
the
And I think just considering also the affiliation so that, I think maybe in a meeting last or prior to the last meeting, we talked about the Lewis Dog Park as an example where, it is out of city limits. However, it's the Lewis Dog Park. So there is an affiliation. There is a partnership per se that the intent, whether it be served or not, is for Lewis residents to use the dog park.
Do we know, is that a membership park, or is that so? Are you guys thinking that that's the model we would look into, something to that effect, or?
I don't know. I mean, I think in conversations before, we had kind of talked about that and thought that might bring in too much requirement with management. Obviously, someone would have to maintain the memberships and it sort of also takes the responsibility away of what we would expect to be canine good citizens if, folks have a membership and just kind of figure that they can use it how they like. But again, certainly preliminary discussions and something that I think just needs a lot more insight moving forward.
Is there anyone on the committee that would like to investigate further something out of town, or do we feel that's something we want to put on the back burner?
I feel like I've been engaged already, so I'll certainly remain engaged.
So for point of order, Ann, if Cheryl decides she's going to investigate that, is there a FOIA issue? Okay, so when would FOIA kick in, if it's more than two people
Yeah,
from the committee?
because then it would be considered like a subcommittee or a working group. It doesn't matter what the name is, it's still gonna be a subcommittee of your group. If it's to Cheryl, then, she can go ahead with that.
Okay,
And then she can just report back to the animal issues committee.
okay. Is
So I
that-
think at this point, we probably would not be able to take another volunteer from the group to remain separate from the group. Yeah,
Okay, is that something you'd like to
sure.
do for another? Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. The second order of old business on here was,
Can I ask a question on this issue, on the previous topic?
oh, sure, come on up. State your name, please, and your affiliation with the city.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I'd like to understand why the beach is off limits. It works in Dewey. There are places within the Cape Henlopen State Park that allow dogs on the beach. I don't understand why the beaches are off limits. Dewey's model, you have to have a tag. Rehoboth could do something similar. I know at the meeting a year ago, people brought up the issue of liability. There are ways around that. there are dog parks in every county in the state except for Sussex County. Actually, Sussex County has one in Millsboro and Milford. They're dedicated dog parks. There are dog parks within county parks and within state parks in Newcastle County. There are dog parks within the city of Wilmington. They have signs posted when you go in that you're entering at your own risk. City of Milford has very elaborate rules associated with theirs. So I struggle to understand why the beaches are off limits. Do something south and north at the two ends of the boardwalk, perhaps. And you have rules posted, and maybe you do a dog tag type of system similar to Dewey, and the city can make money. And then that can actually support one of your next topics about the poop bag dispensers within the parks. So, thank you.
Thanks. I would be happy to put it on the agenda for the city. I was told the beaches are off limits.
By whom?
So.
By whom?
By leadership
Leadership
within
being
the
the
city.
commissioners?
By a majority of the commissioners and the mayor.
And when was that voted?
There was no vote. It was just that it was not going to even be brought up. So I'll bring it up. I have no problem bringing it up. Okay. And then we can have a more larger meeting about it if you'd like.
I would agree with that.
So, okay. So the question would be, you would like to have a dog park on one of our public beaches?
Are you, I mean, I don't think the one in Dewey is considered a dog park. There's an area in Dewey where you have to have a license and they allow the dogs to be off leash. That's all there is to it.
Right.
And we're not looking for anything, like, they don't regulate it as far as have somebody man the area, make sure everything's picked up. It's based on good etiquette by dog owners.
Exactly. And my understanding is, though, there is someone that sort of goes around and makes sure they have their tag and that they have paid their fee to be able to go on the beach. But, I mean.
So it's not a dog park?
No.
No,
Right,
but
okay.
it's a place
Right.
where people can take their dogs and let them run.
Right.
I mean, a year ago, I told you, and I still do it periodically, I take my dog up to the elementary school and let her run. Now, I don't do it when there's a lot of dogs around because she was attacked when she was little, and I worry with a lot of dogs off leash. But I think there needs to be a place for people, even residents, to take their dogs and let them run, because you can only do so much on a 50 by 100 lot.
Deb, is that something you would like to investigate and report back on? I think if you could identify some areas you think would make sense.
Yep.
And what time frames, so it would be whether it's all day or it's certain time frames. And then in terms of seasonality as well.
No problem.
And then at our next meeting, we can discuss that, adopt this here as a group, and then we can bring it forward to the city.
I've actually already checked it out, and Deauville would be a fabulous spot for it. From sunrise until 8, there's nobody there. And I think anybody that doesn't clean up after their dog gets a massive fine for it. The word will get around quickly on social media.
Exactly, or until maybe from sunrise until the lifeguards come on. I mean, I think in Dewey, they're allowed on before the lifeguards come on and after they go off at night. So, I mean, I like the idea of Deauville.
Parking, it's out of the
Parking.
way.
Parking,
There's
exactly.
no bicycles around.
Right, exactly.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Tim, I might tap you on the shoulder for that. Okay.
Okay, the second order of business was the awareness campaign that was developed. I believe, Cheryl, you had spearheaded that. And I spoke with Evan, Assistant City Manager Evan Miller, and while he was very supportive, went around and he checked a number of the different pay stations and meter stations. Many of them are not, I was unaware, are not able to either do a magnet or they can't put a sticker on them. So we were trying to figure out, and if as a group we could figure out some other ways maybe we could get this message out. There is that electric billboard in town when you come in. We could put messaging there about being careful about pets and unoccupied.
What are they made of that they couldn't accommodate a
They're
sticker?
like aluminum or something, but they don't want to put stickers on them
Okay, I
because
mean,
we
I can
don't,
understand, I'm sure.
we don't own them.
Just
So that-
curious,
Yeah,
what,
yeah,
because we see stickers on a lot of them that don't belong, right?
legally, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Partnership with Main Street, with some of the businesses to maybe put a sticker on their windows. I think we talked about that before.
Did, had someone talked to Main Street before about it?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
I don't think we did. I think maybe we brought up the chamber at some point, but, I mean, that's a fantastic idea.
Who is it that runs that electric sign? I mean, who puts that information up there, and how does one go about getting information put on that? Is that the city?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and it rotates through messaging and
Because we did
messages.
discuss before putting on very hot days,
Yes.
make sure you don't leave your animal in the car. And we even said animal or your children in the car.
Right.
And I don't know if that ever materialized or not.
I don't believe it did. Evan was very supportive. I even asked about printing it out on those tickets that you put in your window, but they're going away from the actual ticket stub since you hit your license plate number. And then we talked about, could there be space to actually, if you use the parking meter, it would scroll across the message. But the amount of characters we would need the software couldn't handle that. So I like this idea of maybe working with Main Street and getting something in the businesses would be a good idea. Would somebody like to work or contact Main Street or?
I can contact Main Street.
Okay. We have in your packet, there's a copy of what was produced. And I think it was a cling, wasn't it, as well? Was it a cling? Okay,
I'll talk to Main Street.
okay. I think the former chair of this committee is now the chair of Main Street, so I'm sure I'm sure, Dick Burns. So I'm sure he'd be excited to work with you or work with us on it. Okay, new business. We have,
I'm sorry, just to
sorry,
go
go ahead.
back to the
Sure.
electronic board.
Yeah.
So who do we need to talk to? I know it's the city, but who is the actual body?
yeah, it may be Lynn, it may be the communications person, Lynn Cohn, but I think if maybe we should write up what we would like it to say, kind of very direct, or we could work with her on that. I'll shoot her a message.
You got
And,
that?
yeah, and CC everybody on it.
Yeah, I think we can mock up a more concise version of this graphic, without all the stuff.
Yeah, and that may, the communications, she may be able to help us with that as well. And then if Main Street's amenable, we'll get it to them, figure out how we'll get it produced and let them distribute it. And then also get the messaging on the hot days or during the season on the main board.
And then I think just the other question, though, so if we go to Main Street, where does the funding come for the production of these? Or do we not ask that question now? We wait till
Yeah,
we...
you know, I'll check on that. I think if this is an initiative that the committee feels strongly about, which we do, I'll investigate and find out. I'm not sure about that, but I think we could find funding for it.
Yeah, and perhaps, not to get too technical and/or opportunistic, but, if there's an opportunity for sponsorship for that, maybe with the chamber.
Right.
So as not to solicit businesses, because I think that would kind of be a little bit weird and not appropriate. But, perhaps the chamber puts some money into that and gets their information or logo, or somebody that works with the city in a different capacity that, would benefit in a unique way.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think our communications person, Lynn, would be helpful to help us on that as well. But I think we'd be able to, I can't imagine this would be a huge cost, so. On our new business, we had received actually within 2 days of each other, correspondence related to placing poop bags around town, particularly near the entrances of some of our parks, and then along the boardwalk perhaps, or some of the entrances around the city. I know that we encourage, or more and more restaurants are encouraging people to bring their dogs when they're eating out at restaurants. So I think it would make sense for us if we looked into it. There's a picture, resident Jane Conacy had left of a picture of one of the stations that she had seen, and wondered if that is something that we should investigate here, and what the committee felt about.
Tim, if I may comment, we looked into that at great length in '21, when Dick was the chair. We did the research on the cost of the post, and the biggest concern, not just from us, but from the commissioners, was who was going to maintain filling the bags
And removing the bags.
and taking the dog waste out of the dispensers. That was the biggest concern. It was not a cost prohibitive thing. They averaged $200, I believe, a piece, and the replacement bags are very cheap. But it was who's going to do it? Is this going to be a city employee that does it? None of us volunteered to do that.
Right.
So it is a good idea. I was very pro for it, but it didn't seem to work out.
So if the dispenser was, I'll just use the example of Grove Park, so if there's already trash receptacles there, and if we had put one there,
I went the city.
was there was no appetite for the city to pick up that bag?
Marcia, do you remember the concern from the city's part?
The dispensers had the bags right there with the disposal bucket. So who was going to empty the bucket and who was going to refill the bags?
The separate stop, not on
Right, it
the
wasn't
trash route.
beside a city trash can, which would work, but they're not all by city trash cans.
The trash cans in Dewey are right next to the trash can itself, so you can get the bags, and if your dog uses it, then you put your dirty bag just in the regular trash can. And was that considered, like just putting them next to garbage cans that are already established on Rehoboth Avenue?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if you didn't do the separate receptacle for the waste, you just threw it in the regular trash waste.
But
But that's what this image is showing us, basically. It's a sign that says, please clean up, here's your bag.
that
And the
does
next
not
thing
show
you
the
know, you'll have
receptacle.
complaints about these bags on the ground because someone will say, well, there's not a thing here, so I'll just put it wherever.
Well, that's why we gotta have it next to
The trash.
The biggest concern was who was going to put the plastic bags and refill them at these stations. That was the biggest concern. And I can't remember if that came from the commission level or if that was our committee level concern.
It would seem if we put them near the trash cans, they've got to put plastic bags into the trash cans, then putting these into this receptacle.
I'm talking about filling this
That's what I'm
receptacle.
saying.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. If you put this near a trash can, you already have to replace the bag that you're emptying for the trash receptacle. Putting some bags in that hole isn't,
That's a no-brainer.
They didn't seem to want to do it, though.
well, let's try it again.
The
Let's just,
sanitation department, right?
right.
Yeah. Keep our town clean. That's what they do.
Could we contact Dewey to see how they do it? I mean, who's putting the bags out there?
I'll look into that when I contact them about the beach, what they have going on at the beach, and I'll talk to them about that.
Yeah, because I know Henlopen Acres has,
I know.
Henlopen Acres has a poop station and bags and a garbage can, so I can't imagine why it'd be an issue here.
A local boy did his Eagle Scout project, putting the bags in. So,
Right.
I mean, even getting the labor for it could be pretty cheap. Just have to get the supplies.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I thought it was a great idea when we first discussed it, but I can't remember, it was shot down by the city or what? Cheryl, do you remember?
I don't recall exactly, but there was the pushback about the fact that it did change the operations that were currently in place by adding additional responsibility, then the ordering, maintenance, things like that. Again, I think a small price to pay, but, perhaps we revisit.
Right, did you guys look to any, were there any volunteer groups that we thought might do it for replacing the bags anyway?
I don't
Refill?
recall.
Yeah.
I think we got that far with it.
Any members from the comment like to? Please identify yourself.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I know up in Newcastle County, the parks people, the people that are responsible for the parks, not necessarily the trash pickup, but the parks people would go around, and they don't run out that fast. I mean, the rolls of the bags, there's a lot on them. And theirs were not they did not have a separate receptacle. You pulled your bag and you put it in a trash can that was already there. So the trash pickup wasn't an issue because the cans were going to get emptied. But I would think between, I think it's the streets department that's probably doing the trash pickup in town. And I think between that and the parks department, I would think there'd be people. But if not, I mean, heck, I would volunteer. I couldn't do it by myself, but I would be a volunteer to go around periodically and refill those dispensers. There's actually a homeowner along Bayard who created their own poop bag dispenser using an old like Folgers coffee can, one that had the screw top. They cut holes around the bottom and he keeps it filled. And that area of Bayard has been cleaner because they're there. So I think there's got to be a way to do it, and I don't think the trash piece is an issue, because I don't know about you, but how many dogs are going to poop right there by the dispenser? They're going to grab a bag when they walk by and realize they're out. Wherever the dog goes, they will hopefully pick it up and put it in the next trash can they go by. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Get them on Chewy for $65.
What's that, the dispenser? That's
Do we have a parks department? Who's the parks department?
Under Liz.
Liz
Thought she
Lincoln.
was trees. I didn't.
Well, but the parks are part of that, like all the trees within it and that kind of thing. I believe Liz oversees the parks department.
yeah, I believe, and they take care of the playgrounds, the tot lot, the
Yes.
tennis.
Yeah, and they're the ones that, arrange for the tree trimming and are doing the,
The mulch, or
that
the
kind of
pot,
thing.
the tot
the
lots.
mulch and
yeah.
all that falls under her. Now, granted, for some of that, they have a city contract with Spizzato, but the trash pickup, I think, falls under the streets department. But
Besides Liz, who works for the
I don't know who all's
one,
under her.
I think one employee? Just bringing up that point.
But I mean, I don't honestly think filling those dispensers is going to be a huge time commitment because of the number of bags that come on those rolls. It wasn't like up in Newcastle County, the parks people were in there every week. There was a park within my development that I walked in every single morning, and it would be a while before that thing would run out. So, thank you.
Thanks. I agree. I think if we get approval to do this and we agree, I think we'll find volunteers that could fill these. I would even volunteer to do it because I've been caught myself many times without a bag and going into a store to get another one or something. So I think it's something we need. We've been encouraging more and more people, as I said, to bring pets to eat outside for lunch or to go to dinner, and we should have, I believe, a way for people to clean up after their pet, because if we don't have it, then, yeah, you're right.
Tim, is there a way you could take a vote amongst us so that you could present this to the commissioners?
Sure. If somebody would like to make a motion that we explore the installation of dog waste dispenser, I was going to say poop bag dispenser, but dog waste dispensers, and then we can bring it forward to the city.
Do we have to explore it, or do we make a recommendation that the
Well,
city
you're
just
right. Oh,
go?
yeah.
I think
I think
we
we've
make a
discussed
recommendation,
it
they go.
before, yeah.
Yeah,
I just think
we don't need to
you take it
explore
to
it.
them
It
and
just
then
needs to be
present it.
done.
Yeah.
So would you like to make a motion to recommend we install
Yeah, I would.
dog waste dispensers within the city of Rehoboth Beach, yet to be identified locations, because we're not sure exactly where, maybe parks, maybe Boardwalk, we'd have to talk to the beach and Boardwalk people.
So moved.
I would think at a minimum within the parks. Every park within the city
Right.
should have
There's got to
them.
be a trash can at the parks.
In the county,
There are.
the state park, they have them. So at a minimum within the parks, but I think there should be some along the boardwalk.
I'd agree.
So we'd like to make a recommendation that the city install dog waste stations at various locations around the city.
Correct.
Correct. Make that
So,
motion.
so.
Approve,
so-
approve
say-
second.
Say so moved.
Second, I will
Say so
second that
moved.
motion. So moved.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a recommendation to bring forward to the city the installation of dog waste dispensers with a motion by Deb, and with a second, or Deb Ward with a second by Melissa Riesco.
And that's pretty much a unanimous opinion amongst this group.
You're right, I should have taken a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? No? Great, thank you. Thanks, Bob, I missed that. I assumed we were all for it, but the formality. Okay. In one of the packets I had, that you guys can take a look at the contact information. We had a number of calls I had received a number of calls, as the city did over the winter, where wildlife may have been under someone's porch, or they were in their yard, or there was a sick animal, and people were calling the police department because we don't have an animal control person. And I'm trying to get my paper out here. So it was attached to the minutes, on the back of the minutes page. But on our website currently, these are all of the phone numbers and contact information people have, or that we have listed in case we have issues with pets, from dogs, feral cats, and other wildlife. And we have to try to figure out whether this list is current, whether if you guys scan it and look and see, well, that's not who we should be calling, or this group doesn't exist anymore. I wanted to update the website, plus also make it more prominent so residents know that we don't have an animal control person on staff, and the police department, it's not their job to be called about this, but we need to know the right people to call. And I didn't know if you guys had any additions or deletions to this list. If you wanted to take a quick look at it.
Tim, I have a question.
Sure.
So on this list, what's missing for me is if you find a dog in a hot car on a summer day,
Then you would call the police.
you call the police. Okay, so that would be the number that's on here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if we could turn on the overhead, or you can. It's just taken right off the city's website.
And I think maybe 2020, 2021, early 2021, we provided this information as a addition to what, well, there wasn't anything on the city website. but
Right.
We provided this information, so, it may be time that we just take a minute to go back through and make sure that these are the same numbers and that the numbers are correct.
I'd like to make one correction on here in reference to feral cat colony assistance. The Brandywine Valley SPCA doesn't actually assist with trapping the cat. They will assist with the spay-neuter of that cat for our TNR program. But that has long been either myself or Marcia Maldays who have trapped the cats and transported them to Brandywine for the surgery. So I don't know if our numbers should be on there, Marcia. Maybe that's why sometimes things fall through the cracks and we find out about something after it's happened. Do you want your number on there?
Well, we've always told people to call the police, and the police have our numbers, and then they call us. And we've done that with dogs, too. Call the police, I found this dog. They even have a little yard where they keep dogs. So I don't know what's going on with them.
Yeah, that's, I don't know either. I don't know either. I was just told that there are other groups that should be called, not the police, about
Lost and found dogs.
wildlife and animal, yeah.
I know for a fact the Office of Animal Welfare will respond to an injured dog or cat, or an injured cat, a lost dog, but they will not respond to a healthy cat at large. That's where you and I have always
Right.
kind of filled in, Marcia, on that. But as far as wildlife, you'd have to go through DNRAC. They don't respond. In other words, Office of Animal Welfare, if you saw a skunk that was hit by a car and it was dying in your yard, you wouldn't call Office of Animal Welfare.
We've called the police with an injured opossum once, and they came and shot
Did
it.
they? Okay.
So is Chief Banks changing,
Yeah, I did not hear this from Chief Banks. I just heard that we need to,
find another route?
that's not the police's. People had called about bunnies under their deck, calling about, there was a sick deer walked through the yard. I'm talking about that sort of stuff. I think a lost dog or a real injured pet, I'm sure the police would respond to that. But what we were trying to figure out is there a list that we can make more public and let people know that wildlife will happen in your yard? I know that particularly around some areas of the city, there's a lot of deer wandering around people's yards.
The website for the Delaware Council of Wildlife Rehabilitators does have a comprehensive, I think, homepage that does kind of speak to that, you know, if you should see a fox during the day, it doesn't mean that it's rabid. And if you should see a deer by itself doing something in your yard, that's probably okay.
Are they on here?
Yeah, they're on here.
Which one were they?
Delaware Council of Wildlife Rehabilitators and Educators, and I believe DNREC does also have some language around that they offer the number to call, but they certainly provide information that not everything you see is an emergency. You know, I think that's just a little bit of public education as well.
We're a very small
Governor's
town.
responsibility.
I think that the police and the city should have a list, so when they get these phone calls, they can say, no call here or whatever, because the city has Bob's and my name for the
Right.
cats.
Right. So I tried calling a couple of these numbers and they went to voicemail, but I will, if you guys have any updates to the list and want to let me know, then I'll make sure that we update the list that's on there currently. And then maybe we do provide the list to the folks that answer the phones with the emergencies and the police department so that they have it in front of them. I'll tell you what, it's not easy to find on the website.
I have
took me a
phone number
while.
for Tri-State.
What, I'm sorry?
I have a phone number for Tri-State,
Okay.
and it's 302-737-2999. 9543.
9543, okay. Is there anything on here and you can let me know later, but is there something we're missing on here? Is there an organization or a group we're missing, or one you think we should delete?
Carolyn
Yes.
Diefendorfer, city resident. I don't know if you want to get into listing, like, the city's not going to trap a skunk. If a homeowner wants to get rid of skunks, you have to pay yourselves to do that. And there is an animal and wildlife trapping service over in Lewis that I found. Like, I remember it's probably been 20 years ago, there was a nest of baby skunk behind our house. And, you know, we called and contracted with somebody, and they put a trap out there, and they caught them, and they took them and released them out in the county. So a
That's the
homeowner,
pay-
like
that's the
that
pay
kind
s-
of thing,
That's the
homeowners
pay
have
service,
to-
correct?
Yes, you had to pay, we had to pay for it, but we wanted to get rid of the skunk.
When we did this list, and I vaguely remember going through and putting this together on a very, very preliminary level, we did leave off a lot of information because initially we thought, well, we should be able to list the animal hospitals and list the businesses that may sell pet medication or, something that animal owners, pet owners would find useful. And then it was that fine line of endorsement and maybe favoring one versus the other. So that's where it kind of got a little complicated, especially with, I think we fell into that when we were looking at 24-hour animal emergency centers.
Well, the only thing I think the city might want to do is put where the emergency vets, because there's none local. You have to go either to
Dover or Salisbury.
Dover, Salisbury, Wilmington. There are not any vets that will take emergencies down here.
Does everyone agree we should put that on there?
I mean,
on the list?
Because I know of a situation last year where somebody's dog got attacked by like a visitor had a dog, and it was on a screened-in porch, and it got out and attacked another dog, and the people were very upset that the closest emergency vet was Dover. It is what it is at this point.
But Dover's only daytime. You have to go to Salisbury if it's at night.
Dover.
No, they're
Dover's
both
not-
They have a
is
24-hour
24/7.
there.
Now 24?
Yeah, they
Because
have a
it wasn't before.
24-hour in Dover, and there's the one in Salisbury, and
Blue Pearl now in Wilmington.
in Wilmington, you'd have to go up to Blue Pearl, but.
And the Salisbury one doesn't open until 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
So we'll add that number there, and if anyone else has any additions or subtractions, you can, please send them to me, and we'll get them on the list, and then I'll reroute the list and make sure that we have it correctly. The issue of the paid services, I had looked and found a number of those as well, because one of the residents who called was trying to trap, he wasn't quite sure what it was, but wanted to trap some animal that was under the deck, but didn't want to pay for it. But I said, well, there's pay services out there that will come trap the animals. And so I don't know, was there, as you said, Cheryl, we wanted to get away from maybe endorsing, but should we put a number of somebody that can come trap an animal on here?
Maybe just a note search.
I don't believe that we should, because having had experience over the years with a lot of them, shoot the animals or drown the animals, and there's nothing saying that they can't. And I just would not want to refer someone in that case.
We're not in that business, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, appreciate that. The last order of new business here, I know that we have signs at a lot of the lakes about feeding the waterfowl and some of the other animals, and we had some informal, or I had received some informal complaints about people that are going down throwing bread off the bridge or doing something. And short of enforcement, which is sometimes difficult to do immediately if somebody throws something and you move on, Had you guys, in the past as a committee, I know we have the signage, but was there any other education or any other ideas that people had as to how to discourage people from feeding the wildlife?
Short of pointing at the sign and asking them to read,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just people being ignorant. It doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes it's a babysitter for small kids, you know, to go down and be able to do that and kill some time. That's what it is. I
Right.
mean, almost every time I've experienced it, it's not, these poor turtles and birds are starving, let me give them some bread. It's, I've got nothing else to do, this is going to entertain my kids for an hour, let's just do it. Yeah, so, you know, and how do you get past that?
And in fairness, I think it's probably fair to say we all grew up thinking that was an okay thing, you know? And so now, you know, we're learning better, so it's going to take time for that to, you know, change the mindsets. But I think it's, from a enforcement, no. I think if we can, in a polite way, just kind of reinforce the signs and hope that all people, public-wise, would do that as well, I mean, that's the only way it's going to change the behavior, in my opinion.
yeah, I agree. I think the signs are they're well done, they're clear, they're at both the lakes. I was trying to think, I don't think you need to put them in the parks,
No,
so I'm not sure there's much more we can do.
short of putting a horrible picture up on that billboard that would really shock people, I don't think we want to do that either, so I don't know that there is much we can do, unfortunately.
Okay. Any comments on this one? No? Okay, is there, any members have any comments or would like to have any items put on an agenda in the future?
I have one comment that
Sure.
since August, Bob and I have rescued 9 cats, moms and kittens, most up for adoption.
Wow, that's great.
Bob did most of the work.
Most of what we're seeing in town now, cat-wise, that's new, has been introduced, dropped off, and unfortunately, in most cases, have been friendly, and we were able to take them, have them fixed, and put them up for adoption, rather than trap, neuter, and return them to the street, which we had to do with hundreds of cats for years. But most of the cat colonies have really gone way down to just a couple in each colony that we're aware of.
So people abandoning the cats or bring them to town and,
Dump them. It's happened for years.
There used to be a cat man here.
Joe, yes.
Yep.
He fed them all. He did not believe in spay and neuter.
I grew up here. I watched him with
Yeah.
pulling his cart.
Pull in his cart, yes.
and then also, are any other comments from any members currently? No. Any citizen comment, additional citizen comment? So for the, for future meeting agendas, we were going to discuss which may kind of lead into not the dog park issue, but having dogs on the beach. There was a sheet I had from all the different surrounding towns as to what their rules were for dogs and pets on the beach. So I think one of our topics for the next meeting will be looking at areas where we may be able to at least ask the city, could we have a dog run for certain hours or certain times of the day? And then discuss what we've seen the other cities are doing and how that works, if everyone agrees to have that as a new agenda item.
I
I
think,
agree with that.
I think we really need to be proactive, actively working on this, because right now, if you're around town, like all of us are, whether it's a nonprofit you're involved in or work, Rehoboth's getting some bad rap out there for being friendly. We're losing the library now. Did you see that in the paper? They want to move out of town. That's been here forever. That's not a good look on our town at all. We've got, how big's our town?
I'm not sure that story is all that accurate.
Well, it's
so-
out there. I'm just saying, it's something that we should consider when
I think
we're trying to do something proactive.
they are looking for space out town, but
Right.
they're also going to stay in town as well.
But then, we've, just from constituents at work, around town, clients that I have, what are we, a 1 by 1 1 square mile town with a $35 million budget. I think we can spend money on cleaning up the town, on making spaces available for the tourists that we want to bring in here, I guess,
Right.
with their dogs. So I think we should not just investigate, but action.
Take action.
Well, I think Deb was leading that for our meeting next, right?
Yes,
And-
checking out what Dewey's is doing for their beach time, see what it would take for us to do it, make a suggestion.
Suggestion of location, and then we'll bring it forward to the board
Yep.
and city manager.
Now, is that something I can share what I find in an email to everyone, and then we have to wait for the next meeting to then discuss it? Or can we, from that email, make a suggestion to say, please take it to the next commission meeting? I think we gotta
Yeah.
wait, don't we?
I would just send it to me
Okay.
for now, and then we'll put it on the agenda.
And then
it
if
will
we
be
decide to
something
have
we
maybe
discuss.
a meeting sooner than what we typically do.
Right.
Then we can do that.
And that's what we want to talk about now. I know that in the past, there were, excuse me, yes.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I think you should have gotten an email from my husband on Sunday. One of
Right.
the things he wants everybody to explore is potentially extending the time that dogs are allowed on the boardwalk and maybe have it coincide with the parking. Right now, we're, May 1st, we can't have dogs on the boardwalk anymore, but parking doesn't start till May 15th. Give us 2 more weeks this time of year and 2 more weeks in the fall, and have it coincide with parking potentially.
Yes, no, that'll be on our next agenda
Okay.
because we got it too late.
Okay, all right.
So it'll be part of the whole, that's why we looked at the other towns' times as well. Yep, thanks. So for our next meeting, is our Tuesdays at 2 o'clock still good for everybody? And giving everybody enough time, would we want to do it next month? In April? I'm sorry, in March? End of March or early April? Does anyone have any times that?
April, yeah. I'm
Say
thinking-
sooner the better.
So I will, why don't I send out some dates and you all get back to me and we can schedule it then, but it will probably be late March, early April.
Okay, that works.
Any other questions? Nope. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Second. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.